So, as we get closer to officially starting the academy, right? As we get right up in there with what it is we're doing when it comes to teaching sorcery, right? Like, what is the audacity, right? Well, I teach a 9-layer system, okay? So you can use 9 layers and 3 different tiers of operation. What do I mean by that? Well, I posted the 9 layers up above, but I want to talk about the tiers, okay? There's the first tier when you're learning something. There's the second tier when you're integrating something and you're selling it and everything is working, right? And then there's the third tier when you're teaching it, right? Not just to others, but for others to teach as well, right? But how you go into the fourth tier of bridging these things together for others is to figure out how they're doing their sorceries in different ways. So I've got this interview coming up tomorrow night with Justin Yip and his community. I'm looking forward to it. This will be fantastic. It's going to be the foundations of the business techniques that we're going to talk about when it comes to what's been working really good for organic community development, what's been good for integration of techniques and helping people get through their shit, right? Like, it's the mentalism, it's the community, it's the reinforcements. All of these things are necessary, but if you don't have a place to start or a way to frame out what you're doing intentionally, it becomes complicated, it becomes confusing, it becomes everything you don't necessarily want in your day-to-day. And so, creating a system of layers, the multiverse, as it were, right? What are the 9 thoughts that we can think of at any moment? Fuck, we can go into 11 thoughts if you want to think about the tier ratings, 12, 13, right? 9 plus 4, 13, right? So we have the 4 tiers and the 9 layers in each tier, right? That's a lot of work to do. 36 different steps that we can take. One that can take a year of your life if you only dedicated a year to each aspect of your thing. That means you've got 9 years to develop your business. You've got 9 years to protect yourself, prevent any of the foundations to fall that you set up, right? 9 years you can do it. Path of Wizardry leads to success in 7 under the 7-layer system of the Grey School. And so when you leave the Grey School, once we get you out of those classes, and once we get you into practicum, right? Because you can learn things all you want, but in a closed environment, the application becomes less viable. And so the Academy is about applying these spells, using this magic, learning these energies, so that you know yourself what it is you're up to, how it is you're up to, how it is you can structure a global practice that spans thousands of years, right? Regardless of which tradition it comes from, regardless of which people are doing it, it still spans the globe. It's still concepts. It's still understanding manifestation. It's still a very, very big part of what everybody is doing. And so if we give it a framework, if we give it the opportunity to have a bunch of layers and plans and places, right? You can make an entire generation, 36 years, out of just these 9 levels. That is an entire career of practice. 9 steps, 4 tiers of operation. Continue them ad nauseum. You can do them once per month, you can do them once a day, you can do them once an hour, you can break it up however you want, but those 9 things that you do are aspects of the great formation of the planets, right? The 9 principal applications from 1 to 9 before the numbers repeat themselves. You can do this 1 to 9 before you start repeating yourself. You can learn these things in specific stages. And that's what we offer. And that's how we're doing it. And so as the challenge comes up on the 1st, and I welcome you folks to come and join us both in the feed and in the comments, and I'd love to get you into the VIP group because we're raising money for charity for it. So that'll be a $97 buy-in for the VIP space. You know, we've got Paul Gordon speaking, we've got Phyllis Amon speaking, I've got Mike Williams speaking. there's going to be some good stuff. Even Justin Yip is going to be speaking. You know, he's going to be coming on and talking about his platform. So this is going to be a great development and opportunity if you're looking at how to apply these concepts in a practical and applied manner in short order. Because what we can do once there's a structure is build whatever we need to on top of it, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. For me, I just banged out this 9 list of things and boom, it's done, right? Easy to follow, easy to implement. Ad nauseum. You want to get into the nuance of what each of these things are, then we can absolutely do that. But for now, this is just a conversation on the structure. And I hope that you get to see that what you're doing on your own with just the candles and the spells and everything, that's like level 1. Level 2 is going to be, okay, now you've undertaken the personal transmutations. You've undertaken the alignments to those cosmic energies. You now know when you call forth the earth of air through the seal of the earth, that you know what direction that comes from, east by the way, when you're conjuring the seal of the earth, right? That energy feels different than if you aim at the south and say that same conjuration. The energy is more lively because of the fire. That's just natural how it goes. That has nothing to do with alignments of systems and whatnot. It's you face that direction because you're aiming at the equator. You aim at north because of the North Pole. Right? If we're in the southern hemisphere, if you aimed south, it would be the South Pole. And north would be the hot point. Right? So these things are very practical. The third level is when you're dealing with spirit that you have not created yourself. You're dealing with history. You're dealing with your ancestors. You're dealing with all of those things. This is where you need training in order to do that. This is where you need to be in specific traditions that lead to those paths with those kinds of spirits. Level 5. Now you can start to write your own material. You're creating your own spells. You're creating your own interweave between all of the previous things, right? Level 6. Now you're teaching others. You write your books. You do your podcasts. You do your TED Talks. You do all of the things, right? You do one-to-one coaching. One-to-one coaching to prove your thing. One-to-many coaching to prove that you can do it in a much more time-effective manner because you've got such a great system going. It's like I can teach a group of people or I can teach a one-on-one person. I can teach them magic, I can teach them business. The fucking gamut, right? And now we're on, that was 7, that was 8. Now we're on those applications of how does your stuff fit into other applications, right? This is where the ERA project came in, the Entrepreneurs Resource Association came in. This was where I tested that. How does somebody like Pete Vargas, who's incredibly faithful in his Christian leadership and his ministry, right? Pedro Deo, Russell Brunson, Dean Graziosi. All of these men are profound leaders of faith that understand how to serve at a greater scale. Because it's not about their faith, it's not about them, it's about the business techniques that they offer, right? And so this becomes the level 8 conversation. And the level 9 conversation is the reintegration of everything. You have now created your own school. You have now created your own business coaching programs. You have now created your own business. You can do business coaching and mentorship in any industry. You just have to rethink your industry slightly, right? Meaning you can't use this method if you want to be an employee of somebody else. You cannot. You cannot use this method if you want to stay where you're at and never grow in your life. You cannot use this method if you don't have the focus to understand that there's a journey you're being led on, regardless of if you're told what the journey is. An adventure for discovery, self-discovery, going out into nature and taking a hike, getting lost in the woods and then coming out of it because you now have a new profound understanding of who you are, right? That's part of it. Connecting to nature, connecting to the environment around you in which you serve. That means humans, that means animals, that means the environment, that means the non-tangible stuff. Everything is connected in these layers. And those tiers of operation, what you learn, how you teach and where you sell it, and how you do all of these things is so very